Welcome to Talkin About Sports, the Carolina's #1 podcast. We're number one, not just because I say so, because you say we're number one. We're here with an all-star cast at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Our man James King in the house from University of Wisconsin. So let's introduce our panel. First, senior producer Kevin Tolbert is here. We got Buck in the house. Charles Arbuckle, national sports commentator, former Indianapolis Colt tight end. We got to get your thoughts on the Indianapolis Colts dysfunction here, Buck, in a minute. And UCLA tight end Reggie Walker from Penn State. Mountaineer Mike Freer, the pride of the West Virginia University Mountaineers, who've had an up-and-down week. But first, breaking news from the NBA. By the way, Duke, North Carolina is tonight. I've covered dozens of these games. This is a big deal. This is Tobacco Road. This is the best basketball in the country, if you ask me. But pro basketball has our headlines right now. If you're worried about Kemba Walker going to the Cavaliers, put your mind at ease. Mountaineer Mike, big trade with the Cavaliers, not involving the Hornets.
Yeah, they just came down around noontime. Cavs are sending Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye and their own first-round pick, not the Brooklyn Nets pick that they have, to the Lakers. And they're going to pick up Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. Real quickly, it's really a dump for both teams. The Cavs get rid of Isaiah Thomas, which just obviously was not working out there in Cleveland. And the Lakers are trying to dump salary, and they were desperate to get rid of Jordan Clarkson, who's got about $26 million coming to him after this season. So in order to do that, they had to probably part with a quality young player in Larry Nance Jr. I'm sure that's not what they wanted to do, but they free up cap space to try and go after the big guys this summer, or the summer after that, they had to get rid of Clarkson.
Reg, before we get into Duke, North Carolina, do you think it was it came down to not just what Mike said, is they just did not want to give up the Brooklyn pick? From what I heard, Charlotte was adamant, had to be a part of the deal, or else they were hanging up the phone.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you covered, a lottery pick. Chances are that Cleveland's pick, which they're sending to the Lakers, is not going to be a lottery pick. The hardest thing
high
to get,
20s.
Right. So they were trying the Hornets per se, if they were in those conversations, they were trying to get a lottery pick back. Unable to do it. The Lakers had a little bit more they could offer, but the key for the Lakers is Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye are both coming off the books after this season, so that gives the Lakers even more cap room and more flexibility to go after marquee free agents this summer.
Buck, what do you think? Is this now? We hear LeBron saying, "I'm all in. I'm not going to be traded." Did they get some private assurances that he's going to stay here beyond this year? Is that why they're taking on more salary instead of giving themselves financial flexibility for years in the future?
I don't know if that's even the case, because he and the owner don't get along, and that's gone back for years and years.
Well, he's the coach and GM.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. Yeah, he is. But what I'm saying is, here's what even more is more apparent. They placed all of this on Isaiah because he was hurt. Then he comes back. He was a defensive liability, and in a statistical standpoint. And then you watched the game last night. They had him coming on and off for Osman between possessions. So I think it's just one of those things where they really wanted to find a way to say, okay, we're going to appease LeBron. Make sure when Kevin Love comes back, our team can be focused. Isaiah Thomas,
need to get rid of him.
He was a liability,
and he ran his mouth too much.
Well,
that's the other piece of it. You can't be a liability and run your mouth.
Yeah, and you got to be good to run your mouth, and he's not. And you got to get rid of Kevin Love.
I'm not going to put it all on Isaiah.
Well,
I think it's some of both.
I think Kevin Love's. They should have gotten rid of Kevin Love. They should never have traded Wiggins for Kevin Love to begin with. That's another story. Mountaineer Mike has got the NBA trade ticker up right here. He's going to keep an eye on that. But first, let's get back to Duke and North Carolina. Mike, I got to ask you this. Duke got beat by what I thought was a pretty bad well, not a bad, but not really a good St. John's team. But St. John's has since beaten Villanova, so that doesn't look all that bad. North Carolina really hadn't been North Carolina, and Duke really hadn't been Duke, but they're still North Carolina and Duke. I still like Duke, and it's at the Dean Dome. You throw the records out, it's Duke and North Carolina. What do you like so far tonight?
It's obviously not only is it the best rivalry, obviously, in college basketball.
Better than West Virginia and Cincinnati.
By a little bit. It's arguably the best rivalry in all of college sports. I mean, that's that big a deal.
Definitely in basketball.
Yeah, absolutely in basketball. It's not even a close second. It really is where you throw the records out the window. This is the first time in 3 years Duke actually comes into this game as the higher-ranked team, which is pretty interesting. My favorite stat, which we always ran for years back during my ESPN days, and it still continues. Over the last 100 meetings, Duke 50 wins, North Carolina 50 wins. The point difference over those 100 meetings, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 lousy points.
So-
it's
so-
unbelievable. It's a
so
great
Freer-
rivalry. It's always been a great rivalry. And personally, I expect a high-scoring game once again. These
Yeah.
two teams are averaging the 80s. I don't expect anything different tonight.
So, guys, one of the things that when you do research and you dig a little deeper, and that's a great point, UNC has lost 13 of the past 20 games to Duke, 18 of the last 30 matchups under Roy Williams. And one thing that stands out to me is that Duke is a very good three-point shooting team, right?
Yep.
We have watched them really hit the three and do well. North Carolina, on defense, they have to play that better because if you look at them defensively, they rank so poorly on defense, 324 out of 351 Division I teams. So if you know Duke is going to try to fire the ball from way out, you better stop it. Although Duke is trying to pound it in this year much better, North Carolina's become more of a three-point shooting team. So it's interesting what that's going to provide tonight in this matchup.
And that's why I think to Freer's point, it is going to be a high-scoring game. And to your point, Buck, I'll say it like this. That's absolutely right. Carolina doesn't guard the three ball well. They haven't been great dealing with players in the paint in terms of post defense as well. You know what they're going to do. They're going to throw it in there to Bagley, who's actually a really good passer, out of there, and look for opportunities for him to, A, score the ball, or B, kick out for wide-open threes.
And they'll target Luke May also,
And
too.
Luke May is really the only
Huntersville.
big that we've seen consistently play well for Carolina. Look out. If he finds himself in foul trouble, this game could get ugly pretty quick
I agree.
because Duke can shoot it, and they can pound it in the post. And if you're not careful, they got a couple of guys on the wing that'll put it on the deck and attack the rim as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch how this plays itself out.
I always say expect the unexpected in this matchup.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched ACC basketball growing up, even in Texas, when we first got ESPN, and you could watch games over and over. And this is a game that I always turned on along with Maryland when you had Lynn By. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup this week.
Mountaineer Mike, Grayson Allen averages 17 points a game, but is he tripping these days? He's only averaging 9 points January and February.
It's unbelievable. Everything seemed to be just fine with him at the beginning of the year. Like you said, the first 2 months, first 17 games, averaging 17 points, shooting 44% from three. Everything was fine. Duke was rolling. You're right. Last 9 games.
Maybe he needs to trip somebody. Get back in his groove.
It looks like every week. It looks like he's trying. There's some sort of
Try to trip
YouTube
somebody?
video. Yeah, it seems like there's always somebody trying to hype that up. Overhype it as it is.
Like me?
Like you. There you go. But his last 9 games, just 10 points a game, 34% from the field, less than 30% from three. It's so shocking to see his numbers just drop off like that. And if they really want to win this title, another championship, they're not going to do it in spite of him. They need him.
I'm arrogant and bold, so I'm going to say it like this because y'all know me. I just say it. I don't care. Who's the one guy on these two basketball teams that's built up the most equity as a player that makes plays in big spots for these two teams?
Joel Berry.
If he's not punching, if Joel Berry, if he's not punching a wall.
Who else?
Well,
Grayson Allen.
well,
So
Grayson
I'm going to tell you
Allen,
right now,
yeah.
mark it down. I expect Grayson Allen to go for 20-plus points in this game tonight, and I think Duke wins the game.
I'll tell you another guy to keep an eye on, Gary Trent Jr. He has
Absolutely.
really played well.
The son of the Shaq of the MAC.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just what I love about this game, and it's typical of rivalry games. It may be somebody we don't expect on either side that really comes and shows themselves. And I think that's the part why I like to watch this matchup and watch Roy and Coach K battle and do that whole thing against each other.
That chess match. And that's going to be interesting.
The biggest problem for North Carolina is trying to keep Duke under wraps.
Yeah.
When North Carolina holds a team under 79 points, 15-2. When they don't, when the opponent scores 79 or more, they're just 2-5. And the problem is, Duke has been held under 79 points 3 times all year. They just don't. They get up and down and score. And now, can you keep up with them?
Duke.
That's the big question for North Carolina tonight.
The thing about Duke is they can score from all 5 positions on the floor, and that's what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah.
All right, 5 seconds, you're inbounding it. Who takes the last shot for either team? Mike, go down the line.
If it's North Carolina, I would give it to Joel Berry.
Joel Berry or Grayson Allen, depending on what team.
Yeah, I think you're right, guys, but I'll say this. The 2 guys that are leading the teams are big guys. You look at Bagley with 21.4 and May with 18.3. They're really crucial So does it go inside or does it stay outside?
All right, real quick, give me a winner and very quick, give me a winner down the line. Starting with you, Buck.
I'm going to go with Duke on this one. I'm going against the grain. I think, in my heart, I think North Carolina's going to win it, but I'm going with Duke in this one.
I'm going to say, and they're playing on the road, but I'm going to go Duke plus 10 or more on the road.
Wow.
All right, I've said everything bad about North Carolina today, so I'll take North Carolina. 85-82. How about that?
Hey, if you want to twist
usually,
my arm, I'll go with you too.
I usually go with the home team unless Tyler Hansbrough's playing, and he's not. So I'll go with the home squad. So there you go. Lots more. Plus, we got to get to more breaking NBA news. The dysfunction in the Indianapolis Colts. We got to get Buck's take on that. Philadelphia Eagles. They won the Super Bowl. We'll get reaction for that and more. Who
called that one?
About sports. You did, by the way. I was going to give you your props in time.
I beat you to the
talking
punch
about
there.
sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
That settles it, you think,
Darryl. Hey, Art, the Patriots lost. Get over it. And I tell you, I was pulling for them too. And that was hard for me to say, but I was pulling for them. 16 players on our team, we voted. 13 picked the Patriots, 3 picked the Eagles. And after the game, I heard a screaming all the way at my house. Theo, Joel, and Luke picked the Eagles. Everybody else picked the Patriots. All right, Doug, go ahead.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports. You just heard Roy Williams there, and he seems confident. He's a good coach, by the way. Won some national titles. Good
This just
coach.
in.
Yeah, I'll tell you who else is a good coach is Doug Peterson, the now Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Never thought I'd hear that, say that. Mountaineer Mike, you called that. You went out on the limb last week and not only took the points, you said outright the Eagles were going to win. And here's why I like Doug Peterson. First of all, he was a very good player in college and played in the NFL for many years. Was Brett Favre's backup, who, by the way, I think the quarterback coach at early on was Andy Reid. So he's been around a lot of good players, a lot of good coaches, a lot of good systems, and I think that didn't Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP, go to him and said, "Hey, I got an idea. I think we should run this play." So, what's your initial take? And by the way, congratulations on your prolific prognostication.
Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So the thing I took out from that game, the most that I took out was, for me, it was really amazing to watch. You have Tom Brady, who is arguably the greatest quarterback in the game's history, being at very least played even by Foles, if not surpassed by Foles' performance. You have Rob Gronkowski, who's one of the great tight ends, if not the greatest
Ruben
tight
be
end.
going to Hollywood.
It could be. Zach Ertz met him production-wise from start to finish, even up. Mm-hmm. And then you have, as you said, Bill Belichick, maybe the greatest football coach ever, and Doug Peterson out-coached him. I
think Reggie Walker pointed it out last week. He said the Philadelphia defensive line is going to get a lot of pressure on, and they're not going to have to blitz a lot. And I think that was pretty much the case. Philadelphia even playing with a substitute left tackle who got injured right here in Carolina. But I think, Reggie, as you pointed out, one of your keys before the game was the Philadelphia defensive line against the Patriots offensive line.
Yeah, and I actually, to be honest with you, I thought it was actually, when you go back and look at the tape, it was pretty even. There were some times where they got a lot of pressure, and there were some times where that offensive line held up decently. You know, the interesting thing,
but that one turnover in the fourth quarter was right what you called.
And right, absolutely. And the other thing that I thought for the Eagles, and I mentioned this, the young fella in the secondary, McLeod, was going to have to play well for them. He made a couple of big-time stops on third down to create situations that didn't turn into big plays. One of them ended up being a first down, but it didn't allow a big play for the Patriots. Another one led to a kicking attempt. So when you see guys make those type of plays in the backfield, I thought Malcolm Jenkins played really well. The corners were really good, except for the one double move that they got Jalen Mills on. The corners played really well. But at the end of the day, I thought the game was played very clean. I thought it was a pretty clean game.
I thought it was dirty.
And what I mean by clean was, I thought the officials, they blew their whistles, threw flags when they had to, but they didn't. It wasn't a lot of penalties. Yeah. There weren't a lot of stoppages, a lot of complete passes.
Controversial calls.
Well, they missed some things.
They missed some things, but they caught some other things. I thought the game was very well called.
Buck, I wanted to ask you this before you make your point.
Yeah.
you're a player. Now, one of the controversies came out of the game was the defensive back who got benched. You ever been around? You ever heard of a situation like that? I thought him not being in the lineup was a big deal.
With Belichick, you never know what to expect.
Right.
And that's the thing. Malcolm Butler has now come out and said, hey, I didn't do anything. He really has been all class with this. Belichick can be Belichick. I mean, if he wants something a certain way, he's going to do it. Maybe it was something he didn't agree with, but he played 97% of the snaps before that, so it was odd. It was really odd, and they needed him in that game.
And Bill's the type of guy that will hold information like that because he's worried about the other team being able to game plan. So that part of it didn't surprise me.
So going back to Peterson, though, think about this. You also have Frank Reich on that staff, 2 backup quarterbacks most of the time.
Frank Reich rumored to be with the Indianapolis Colts, Buck.
Yeah.
Heard anything there? You got a lot of sources
well, he
and
might
connections?
be. I'm not sure.
Former
I think
Panther backup?
He's been interviewed the last couple of years. It wouldn't be a bad decision by the Colts to bring him there. I think the one thing, though, with that trick play, they have a vault. They have a quality control guy called Press Taylor who has a vault of those trick plays.
Yeah.
Nick Foles went over there and said, it's time to run Philly special.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about Nick Foles. One of the questions people have is how good is he? He showed you how good he was when you have that bye week to get better, and then when you have the bye week between the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
He played at a whole nother level, guys. And I think when you only have 1 punt and 1 sack between both teams, the offensive linemen were wrecking house for both teams.
And the pick, let's think about the 2 turnovers. One of them was Graham being able to barely get. I mean, he was essentially blocked on the play. He got one hand on Brady's left hand to knock the ball free, and the pick was a tip ball that the receiver actually had possession of almost in his arm.
Alshon
Jeffrey almost made that catch. It's a tip ball that goes up in the air, and it's a pick. So if you think about the cleanliness of the game, it's unbelievable.
Going all the way back full circle. That's why Malcolm Butler was so important. Wherever Stephon Gilmore went, he and Alshon played against each other in college. They knew each other. That catch that Alshon didn't make, he had the interception. He did that against Alabama.
Right.
But going back, when you don't have Butler, then you only have one side of the field controlled. The other side is going to be picked on, and that's what happened to the Patriots.
And let me make a point on that. I'm glad you brought that up because I've said this a lot over the years as a former defensive back. I can't stand when teams say, we're going to have you follow this guy to either side of the field. Because the thing you have to think about with that is how uncomfortable do you make the other guy? And if the other guy becomes that much less of a player because he's uncomfortable on the other side of the field, are you really helping your football team?
Yeah.
That's a good point. The whole Malcolm Butler thing that bothers me, well, it doesn't bother me. I rooted for the Eagles the other day, so I'm happy about it. But if you don't start him, that's fine. The comments after the game were that he wasn't good enough for the matchup. You couldn't put him in one play when everybody's going up and down the field.
And the innuendo of it. That's what I'm saying. Now, the Patriots are a great organization. They've won many Super Bowls, but we know there's some stuff that they've done, too, that people will say, hey, you cheated here, you had this. So bottom line is they're messing with his character, and if he didn't do those things, that's the part I don't like. Now, if he missed curfew and was out hanging out and did all that, then that's one thing. But they've never come out and said it. We've been hearing those reports from NFL folks as opposed to the Patriots themselves, which you never will really hear.
And he's an impending free agent. If you think this cloud is not going to impact how much money he gets, you're crazy. So at the end of the day, somebody's going to want to know exactly what happened or if something happened. Yeah. And until people know, it's going to impact how much money he gets in free agency.
Yep.
This wasn't on the run sheet, but I wanted to get a quick take. Impact of Carolina now, the Super Bowl. We got a sale, and now we have the interim general manager on paid leave for being accused of
harassment, I think was the term.
Yeah.
What was it, Reggie?
Pulled that back also too.
Apparently she pulled back the
I know from
request of order of protection or whatever.
There's sometimes you're guilty until proven innocent. So sometimes accusations are incorrect and they harm people's reputations when the reputations do not deserve to be harmed. Now, Super Bowl commercial. Anything stick out in your mind? Go down the line real quick.
I couldn't tell you one commercial. I couldn't.
I think Doritos had something.
I'm happy for them.
I don't like them, but I'm just saying.
I didn't see one commercial. Nothing that stood out. I take
Amazon
advantage of those
Alexa losing her
breaks.
voice was pretty funny.
Any commercials stick out to you guys? Or y'all?
I said Amazon Alexa losing her voice was kind of funny.
I mean,
the
Amazon's
Giants.
taking over the
Only
world.
part of the thing that was funny with the Giants to me were the offensive linemen. I thought that was funny to watch the big sexies move around like they.
Yeah, I mean, those two
What are you saying,
commercials.
Buck? You got some announcement or something? I mean,
No.
oh, okay.
Those two
All
commercials in particular were interesting, but for me, I mean, I was watching the game with a group of people, and I'm a football guy, so
At that undisclosed location.
I want no. My thing is, don't talk while the game is going on. If you want to talk during commercials, you can. So I was locked in, so I missed a lot of commercials.
All right, Saints running back Alvin Kamara, the NFL Pepsi Rookie of the Year. That's not bad. He had some good stats. Kareem Hunt, who John Tobias, JT, told us about, who's on assignment today. I think the overhyped Christian McCaffrey also had was a finalist.
Why do you
Leonard.
say that?
Why was he overhyped?
Why do you say he's overhyped?
What did he do? Would you rather have Kareem Hunt or Alfred Kamara this year?
Well, that's why
Well,
Kamara got
do
the
you have
Rookie
a
of the
number
Year.
one
But
receiver here?
I don't
That's all
think
I'm saying.
McCaffrey.
Also.
Leonard Fournette and Marshawn Lattimore, who had I think a bigger impact for the Saints than McCaffrey did for the Panthers.
Well, as a primary top receiver.
I'm going to disagree with you because they don't have a number one or number two here really consistently. With Devin Funchess being hurt, and he's more of a two guy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you have, I just think what they did and what they really tried to have is between him and Curtis Samuel. He wouldn't have had as much
Buck,
production.
Now with a new offensive coordinator, a veteran, established offensive coordinator in Norvell Turner, as I call him,
Yeah, Norv Turner.
who ruined the Washington Redskins, my beloved America's true team, the Washington
But
Redskins.
he had the Cowboys win 3.
Yeah, he was a good.
He didn't ruin
coordinator.
anything.
He was a good coordinator
Okay.
with Troy Aikman, and the Cowboys is the best dressed man and the most interesting man in the world. William Wilson's right off camera here, reminding me that he thinks that the Cowboys are still America's team. A lot of people think it's the Patriots. I still say it's the Redskins. Norvell Turner could make the difference in the development of this offense. Now, you give Norvell Turner a lot of chess pieces. Samuels, McCaffrey, Funchess, Olsen with Cam Newton. Maybe, and I think you need.
I still think you need a number one receiver.
Yeah.
I think you need a number one running back because McCaffrey is not that guy. He's not a big back.
No, he's not. He's a change of pace guy. You're going to use him in different settings. But what he did show you is, and I saw Alvin Kamara and I saw both of these guys live. And I think the one thing with Kamara is that it was perfect because he was aligned with Mark Ingram.
Thank you.
And he had an opportunity to make some plays. If Jonathan Stewart is healthy, or if you have a guy that's healthy at the number one running back position, you can do some of those things on third down. But also, he's a very good receiver out of the backfield.
Now he's no longer here with the Saints, but wasn't Adrian Peterson at training camp in the first few weeks of the season? Could he have rubbed off with some practice habits and being in camp with Ingram and Peterson? Could that have helped Kamara?
I don't know. I think they made the decision that was best for them, and they looked like they were rolling pretty well, and they ran the ball effectively without Adrian Peterson.
And I'll add to that. Anytime, not to disagree, but I think anytime a young player can be in the same meeting room with an older, more veteran player, there's something they can pick up. But here's what I would argue the difference is in the way Kamara was deployed versus the way Christian McCaffrey was employed. And I'm not comparing the two at all, but the New Orleans Saints play a style that most of their receiver routes push you way down the football field. So when you're able to check down to a guy like Kamara with a bunch of deep routes over the top, there's a little bit more room to work. And when he's one-on-one, you're not going to win that battle. The Panthers' offense they didn't push it as much down the field. So when they did throw the football to McCaffrey, sometimes there were more people in closer proximity to him. So you didn't see opportunities for him to turn 6 into 60 as much as maybe Kamara. And then the other piece with Kamara is you've got Drew Brees, you got all those receivers, whether you're talking about Thomas, you're talking about Ted Ginn stretching it. I mean, that's a lot of speed. And then, again, the Ingram factor as well. So I just think I don't think you can compare the two because the offenses are so different.
Mountaineer Mike, Luke Kuechly.
Olsen was out.
Luke Kuechly, the man of the Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award winner, in addition to being first-team All-Pro and made the Pro Bowl, but sat out because he'd rather went to the UFC fights here in Charlotte the night before the Pro Bowl.
Just another good award, fine award for his trophy case that continues to build. He's I mean, by all accounts, he's obviously a solid player on the field, and seems to be a solid player off the field. They're a solid person off the field.
Making a lot of money on commercials right now.
Yeah.
That's a home security deal with the little gnomes in the yard. And
the window
he's cutting in Thomas Davis on the action, so that's good. All right. Well, anyway, we got more. We got to get to the Hornets, and it's Duke and North Carolina. It's rivalry week right here on Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
My lips on this one. All week, yeah. All the time. It's been sunny all week. The weatherman said today's almost gonna be as hot as this beat. Plus the words that I speak. I got out of the shower, hit the barbershop, and God in the seat. They talking about the game from last night and placing bets on who gon' win tonight's fight. I got out of the chair, fresh to death. Look down, check my phone, cause I just got a text. My man's at the car wash, said it's gonna be on tonight. There's a party, and it's gonna be tight. I ain't gotta be told twice. Went and got me some rest, cause it's gonna be one of those nights. Can already see it. Text again, said you saw one I slept on and a best friend. When the sun's bright and the wind don't blow, you really hope that tomorrow comes slow. Yeah, I ain't got a care in the world, just got paid. Got the slick shades and the fresh fade. We gon' have a good time, everybody keep it tight. Get right, keep it moving all night. Yeah, get my dance on. Yeah, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, let's go. Check. It's almost 10, the sun's gone, but it's still hot, and my phone's been ringing non-stop. My dog pulled up in the coupe, push the button and there's air where there used to be a sunroof. Yeah, we're stunting hard, switching lanes on the highway. Get to the spot and the line's down the block. Not a problem when you flow like this. Dap the bouncer while the valet park the whips. The DJ's dropping those hits, and these chicks look like...
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Kevin
Lunchtime.
Reggie Walker, Charles Arbuckle, Buck. Mountaineer Mike Freer. Offset is William Wilson. Daytona's right around the corner. And we got some celebrity golf news there, not to mention Daytona around the corner. But Buck, National Signing Day, and there's lots of talent here in and around the greater Charlotte area, which includes northern South Carolina. We got some guys from the Concord area signing. Lots of guys from Charlotte. Buck, what's the latest on National Signing Day? Who are some winners and losers?
Well, I mean,
I guess they're all winners.
The biggest thing is all of them come out and say, we got the guys that we wanted, we filled needs. I used to do the National Signing Day show, so I enjoyed listening to coaches give us all the coach speak. But if you really look at it, I think, Georgia did a really good job. Texas A&M seemed to come on really strong. Ohio State. I don't know. When you say losers, I don't know how you quantify that. Because
how about that guy's mom walking off the set? Did that happen to you, Reg, when you signed?
She came back, though. She came back and hugged him. She had to go off camera because she didn't want to lose her religion, probably, because she wanted him to go one place. He wanted to go somewhere else. I'll say this. You don't know, and Reg, and Mike, you know this as well. These guys, we won't see some of them for a while. We don't know how good they're going to be. So you can be a great number on signing day, but does that translate to how well they develop you and you're able to play when you step on the field?
Signing day was yesterday, right?
Yep.
Guess what today is?
The day after.
National, I'm going to stop following you on Twitter and start cussing you out day. That's what today is.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's great for all these kids. But getting back to your question, Kev, about the mom, here's the thing, man, and this is where these kids have to understand what they're doing and the gravity of the decisions they're making. And I don't really know the whole backstory of what happened with that kid with his mom walking off. But
first of all, she's wearing a Tennessee hat and an Alabama sweatshirt. That's ridiculous.
And
he went to Florida.
Right. And that's where you got to have the conversation and tell your family before you announce it to the world. They need to know what's going on. You can't, but at least a parent, you can't blindside a parent like that.
Well,
it's the kid's decision. I get that. Well, but if you've got a person, let me rephrase. You've got to know who it is you're dealing with in your family. My mom is an emotional person.
Yeah.
She's going to react if it's something that she doesn't expect. My dad is more stoic. So with my mom, I would have had to pull her aside 30 seconds before and say, look, this is what you're getting ready to hear. You need to be prepared for this.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of those things that kids, they're 17-year-old kids. They're not always prepared to have those kinds of
Well, I also think the other thing too. We saw it with Landon Collins' mom, and he's turned out well. She
NFL
wanted him to go to
player.
LSU. He went to Alabama. He's starting for the Giants now, playing really well.
And I bet you the stuff in her house is nice too.
I think the other thing here is this, guys. When you look at this at the end of the day, it's ultimately going to be that young man's decision.
Yep.
And the parents may not like it.
Yep.
But they are going to have to go there and play the game and study and do everything else. And basically, it's 4 versus 40. I always tell kids this.
Yeah.
You can choose for 4, but if you don't pick for 40, so no matter where you end up going, it better be a 40-year decision.
Say that
because
again.
It's got to be a 4 versus 40.
That's
because if you get 40
All right.
years in, and I'm there now. I played when I was 18. I'm almost 50. I still have buddies from college,
Yeah.
and I have relationships from college that I can go to this day if I needed something.
Buck, how did you? But first, let's go down the line. Buck, how did UCLA do? Reg, how did Penn State do? Mountaineer Mike, what did the West Virginia Mountaineers do?
UCLA came on strong lately.
They got a new coach, Chip
Yeah, they
Kelly,
came
right?
on strong at the end, and Chip is not one to get just blue chip or 5-star, 4-star guys. I think they got what they needed. They got a quarterback and they got some offensive linemen, which they needed.
Reg, how did Penn State do?
Penn State's class, at least for the February signing day, was pretty quiet. They got most of their guys signed in December, in the initial signing period in December. So a little bit quieter in Happy Valley, but Coach Franklin real happy they picked up an offensive tackle, which the funny thing about that is the kid announced his verbal commitment in January at an All-Star game. He's already on campus, but he actually signed back in December, and they kept that private and quiet. So that really helped build the relationship between the family and the kid. So for Penn State, I would say, you just continue to move on. It's a top 5 class, and the one team that they've struggled to consistently beat, Ohio State, also had a top 5 class. So guess what?
Yeah, they're good.
It's the East in the Big Ten is going to be one between Penn State and Ohio State again.
So I guess Rutgers isn't in the discussion. Mike, how
Sunge.
did the West Virginia Mountaineers do? Did Dana Holgerson have reason to stay out late celebrating last night?
Well, you did Morgantown. It's always a reason to celebrate.
Only when you leave.
No.
Have you been to Morgantown?
Yeah, I have been.
Almost heaven, from what I'm told.
It's a pretty good party.
Bonfire in every corner.
Nah,
I'm all right with that.
Not true. Top 30 class, right around there. About middle of the pack in the Big 12. They're never going to be a top 10 recruiting class. It's
agreed.
not who they go after, but they
Always tough to beat at home, and they always score a lot of points.
and they always will be. They'll be in the hunt. It will not impact how they're going to look for next year.
All right, now,
Put it that way.
Reg, who's this guy? DB, I don't know how to. Elijah Griffin, the son of rapper Warren G. Is that right? Committed to Southern Cal?
Yeah, he's
That's
actually.
not South Carolina. When I see USC, I say Southern Cal.
Well, I do too,
Yeah,
but he's a
Only
pretty good.
one state is USC, South Carolina.
Yeah, pretty good football player. The one thing I like about him is actually, I don't know how much people have seen him on tape. He's got really, really good feet, really good hips. He does really well dealing with receivers, driving on the football out of breaks because his ability to change direction is really strong. And he's got an ability to be physical. I'm interested to see if he can put on another probably 10 to 15 pounds.
Because he's about, 6'2", 195,
He's about 6'1". Yeah, he's only about 195 pounds. He's a big.
long.
He's got a chance to be much more physical because he's so long. So I'm curious, and it wouldn't shock me if this kid puts on 15 and ends up playing safety at a higher level.
Now, Buck, who are some top Carolinas gets? We see from our list Peyton Wilson from Hillsborough going to NC State, Darian Kendrick from Rock Hill going to Clemson. Also, there was a top lineman from Concord, whose name escapes me. He's going to the South Carolina Gamecocks. Give me some kind of like the local Carolinas area, either players going from the Carolinas somewhere or coming into the Carolinas.
Or you're talking about guys like Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor
who-
Lawrence
a
and
quarterback
Xavier Thomas and
out
those
of
guys.
Cartersville, Georgia, going to Clemson. I think that's one of those things where you look at. I think the biggest thing with this is how are you going to, when you step on the field, are you going to be ready to play? There's a lot of kids. We say it every year. You got Darian Kendrick out of Rock Hill, South Carolina, going to Clemson.
Baller.
Yeah, he is a really good player. I mean, they've got some really good players. Now, when you step on the field and you go to a school now, everybody else is an All-American just like you were. Can you compete?
And here's another thing that I think is very, very interesting when you talk about Clemson, because for the first time they were number 6, I think they came in at on the backside in terms of ESPN's ranking where their class was. People down in Death Valley, it's okay. You did your best recruiting in January after the college football playoff and keeping that defensive line on campus. So it's going to be fine. You don't need to have a top 2 class or the number 1 class because your best recruiting job was done keeping that defensive line intact for 2018 season.
Dabo's at the point of his success at Clemson. He's a guy who reloads. They're not rebuilding they're like Alabama. They reload every year. They make it up.
Some teams need to rebuild.
I don't even think they reload. They just say next man up.
in Wichita, but he's got the program in a really, really as good as it's ever been.
Yeah, he really has. And I think the one thing, too, that he's done a nice job of going down in Alabama, getting talent.
Yeah.
Going down to Florida, getting talent. And Clemson has become a name that everybody knows on the recruiting trail. They're going to compete. If you're on the Clemson's list, you're pretty doggone good.
He went and got a D lineman from Connecticut. How does that happen?
How does Randy Edsel let that happen? That's my good friend Randy Edsel. How does that happen?
Listen, that's pretty simple to answer that. That's called tradition and pedigree.
Well, I don't. Randy Edsel's a good coach.
He is. I don't disagree with that.
All right, now, Buck, tell us about the Carolina Senior Football Showcase. Now, so if you're an up-and-coming high school guy and you want to have guys like you and Reggie Walker and Mountaineer Mike talking about sports in years to come, how do you get into the discussion? How do you get to be a better player? How do you get noticed?
Well, so what happens is a lot of guys think they're going to be Division I. I mean, I'm going D1 or bust.
My son thought that.
And then you may think FCS and bust. Well, after signing day, there's a lot of guys that are very talented, and they may be in areas where scouts don't go see them. And what we've created is the Carolina Senior Football Showcase for D2, D3, and NAIA kids that can come out one day. We work them out. Reggie was there last year. We really get them in a position to be seen by these college coaches. We'll have about 30, maybe 35.
My son played D2 football. I wish what you have is gold.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of parents who are going to be looking at this. First of all, as a parent whose son played college football, make sure your son is going to class and studying.
Yeah, exactly.
But beyond that, I really like what you and Reggie are doing with this because there is scholarship money at 1AA, D2, and NAI as well.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, we had an example of a kid last year out of Monroe, North Carolina. Had a couple of things that he was looking at. I talked to his dad, Breonte Baker, a kid that was a really good player in the area. He ended up at Manchester University. He's going to be starting there for him this year, running track. Pretty much got his college paid for. Now, college is expensive, and that's what I try to tell people. Get them to the showcase.
It's called a Parent Plus loan. I'm paying it.
Yeah, the reason I got it, my coach did it in college, Terry Donahue, when I finished, and I went out and worked his, and I had a bunch of kids from my group end up getting opportunities, and I had to bring that back to Charlotte.
Yeah, and I was out there last year helping instruct the kids, and, my message was twofold. And the main piece of my message, and we talked a lot about this, is I told these kids, just because you're a great player around here, that you still may get missed.
Where you go, everyone's a great player where they came from.
But my point, what I told them is don't be the local legend that never left. Go somewhere, go to school. If you choose to come back, that's fine. But go somewhere and go to school. And just because you're not playing high major Division I football doesn't mean you're not a good football player.
No.
If you're good, they'll find you.
Absolutely. We had a kid at my son Adam Casey played at Brevard, North Carolina, went to Mount Pleasant High School, Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, and he had a teammate named Michael Gruber who Clemson and South Carolina were looking at, but he didn't have the grade. So he somehow found his way to Brevard, and this guy was in kind of bowl they had in Charleston at the Citadel, and this guy got a lot of looks, could have played some pro ball, but went into private business with his family.
You bring up a good point. That's the one thing I want to see our kids do a better job of. Don't get to your senior year and say, well, I'm going to improve my GPA 5 points. Or
that's right. It starts on the first day of ninth grade.
Exactly. Start in middle school.
Build your resume.
Build a good foundation, because these coaches, we're going to have some high-quality schools here that are highly academic, $60,000 a year schools. If you are good enough and you can play, they're going to sign you.
And I'll make another point. When you start thinking about these kids and the future and what level, and you know this because you put this group of guys together. Some of the guys that were out there instructing last year were former Pro Bowlers, Super Bowl champions, 10+ years experience in the NFL.
Quality evaluators.
But guess what they're all doing right now? They have a job because they have degrees that allow them to work
productive
jobs
citizens
and open the door for those opportunities. Yeah. So at the end of the day, what the biggest thing that I think Charles, because this is Charles's thing, I just try to go out there and instruct.
No, it's everybody.
But what those kids at the end of the day want to understand is, we want you to go to school. You don't have to become an NFL player. Just go to school, get that paperwork, man.
Yeah.
Get a degree so you can pay off. If you owe anything in college, pay that off. Have a job. Don't be relying on your mom and dad to pay the bills. Believe me, that stuff gets old quick.
Yeah.
And Buck, I can tell you this: through the recruiting process. NAIA school like Bluefield College and Bluefield, part of West Virginia, part in Virginia, they offered more scholarship money than some Division II schools.
Yeah,
some NAIA schools do that.
Yeah, they may give you grant and aid, they may give you scholarships, but they work on ways to get you there. And if you have high academics, they really try to help you with that. And I think that's going to be really key when you look at this opportunity. All I'll say is this. I kind of put this together because God put it on my heart, but there's a lot of guys that help do it, and people, my wife included, who and there's so many guys that when I brought it back were like, when can we do it? Where do you need me? And I think that's the most important thing that I saw. They saw the same thing that I did. Every year getting hit up by people that you wanted to help but you didn't know how to. This event does that for them, and that's why I want to keep doing it here in the Carolinas.
And Buck, because I have issues remembering things, can you let everybody know when it is? Because I need to know what my schedule's going to be. That's the reason why I asked.
It's March 3rd at Charlotte Latin School. Starts at 8. The kids will have to be there early. Yeah, it starts at 8 o'clock. We'll run all day. We have the guys on the field doing their portion, and then afterwards the college folks will be there. There'll be admissions directors there, and if they want to sign you,
get there early.
They can. Yeah.
Check it out on Twitter at Carolinas FB Showcase. At Carolinas FB Show is the Twitter handle.
All right,
check that out.
Before we go to break, Mike, you have some breaking news from our trade tracker, if you will.
Yeah, it appears as ESPN Adrian Wojnarowski as
reputable,
very reporting that Cleveland's going to send Dwayne Wade back to Miami.
Does LeBron know about that?
I would assume.
Does Dwayne Wade know about that?
Either he does, or at this point the Cavs just don't care because they know he's going to be gone after this season.
I'm Dwayne Wade. I'm celebrating that.
Absolutely.
Getting out of Cleveland. And by the way, it's warm in Miami right now.
And he's the greatest player in the history of the franchise.
He's used to all the distractions down there.
It's fine for him. He's still in the playoff hunt.
That's right.
So,
I think a very underrated coach,
is hurt,
Eric
so
Spoelstra.
might as well get him back down there.
I think Spoelstra is a very underrated coach. So we've got that, more NBA trade talk, and maybe how it impacts the Charlotte Hornets. We're coming back with more Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
We about to eat.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Kevin Tolbert, Mountaineer Mike Freer, Reggie Walker, and Charles Arbuckle. Buck down on the corner. Mountaineer Mike, repeat our breaking news here from the NBA, and the Charlotte Hornets got in on the trade action a day early yesterday. Kind of break down, just recap what the Cleveland Cavaliers and Miami Heat did, and tell us about who the Charlotte Hornets acquired yesterday.
Well, so far on Thursday, the Cavs have sent
they're cleaning house.
They clean house, sent Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye to the Lakers.
Good riddance.
And the Lakers are sending Jordan Clarkson, who I'm a fan of, but he doesn't come cheap.
He's got a lot of money coming his way.
And Larry Nance Jr., who's a solid, who was a starter for the Lakers until he got hurt.
Larry Nance Jr. can play.
And that'll help the Cavs, and as long as they don't mind picking up the money.
Well, Cleveland loves the last name Nance.
Yes, they do. That's a good point. Absolutely.
That's right.
And then just a few moments ago, the rumor mill is that Miami is going to pick up Dwayne Wade.
I think it's a great move for Miami.
I think, I don't understand from Cleveland's standpoint, but it sounds like it's definitely a great move for the Heat.
Cleveland dumping salary.
Yeah, they're getting rid
What
of
about the Charlotte Hornets acquiring Willie Hernangomez?
Hernangomez,
and you give up 2 future second-round draft picks. And you did this
Johnny
guy,
O'Brien.
For who? Johnny on the spot? Johnny on the spot O'Brien, who was a 10-day contract guy. I think this Hernangomez. How you say it?
Yeah, Willie Hernangomez.
Wasn't he in like the NBA rookie game like a year or two ago?
He was the first team All NBA rookie last year.
I think that's a lot of people are saying, not just you, Mike. That's a steal for the Hornets.
Oh, I completely agree. I'm a
Rich Cho know about that.
I'm a Knicks fan and a Hornets fan, and
Rich Cho couldn't have done that.
I think he probably. I don't understand from the Knicks standpoint. They gave up on a young player.
They have a bad owner.
Either he's really that's another story altogether. Either he's really fallen off the cliff as a player, which I can't see how that happened from one year to the next.
He just needed more playing time, this guy.
He got absolutely no playing time. And
he'll get it here.
He should get it here because the Hornets bench is, to say the least, struggling as a rule.
Plus, Kenny Gadsden's coming back. The bench is pretty sorry.
This is a good pickup for the Hornets, I think. And not only for this season, who knows what's going to happen. The playoffs might be just a tad out of reach at this point because they're running out of weeks. But going
I think
forward,
they're going to make a push, and they're going to be competitive for that 8th spot.
I think they are too. I'm just saying every week they keep running out. They go and beat the Suns on Sunday. They turn around Monday and lose to the Nuggets. You're running out of games at some point.
Well, a wise man once said, Reggie, it gets late early. What do you think, Reg, about this trade and the Hornets with under 40 games to go?
I like Hernan Gomez as a player. I do. I actually think his future is pretty bright. I feel like they should have been able to get him for only giving up a player and one of those picks. But so that's the only thing I didn't like about the trade, as I felt like 2 picks was more than I thought they really had to. But at the same point in time, I think it's a good acquisition for the Hornets.
It is Rich Cho
because
we're
I think
talking
people
about.
Also don't realize after this year, Dwight Howard's only under contract for 1 more year,
and he could opt out.
And if you want that cap space, I think that'll be a good thing down the line as well.
Dwight Howard could help a contender if Rich Cho were so to deal him. But Buck, what do you think about the Hornets acquisition and anything else NBA and trade related?
Well, I think really and truly, Kemba Walker is the X factor. He's really started to play well, and I think there was some talk about them, unloading him or trading him, and ever since then he's played much better. And also, Reggie, you bring up a good point. Dwight Howard may not be under contract, but he's playing some of his best basketball.
Yes,
quietly.
He is.
I think those are the kind of things you look at and say, okay, how can you build pieces around those guys? I will say this: the Knicks have to be hurting with Porzingis, losing ACL issue. I mean,
they're talking about 10 months with Porzingis.
Man.
That's rough.
And
now,
that's rough for them because they built the team around him.
Yeah.
Now, fantasy basketball, Mountaineer Mike, you're our senior fantasy expert. Now,
just a senior.
Well, not the junior. Fantasy picks with Hernan Gomez coming here and Kemba Walker. These guys now with all the trade movements. How does this have an impact on the fantasy front?
It really, from the Hornets standpoint, there's really nothing that impacts. Hernan Gomez will probably see an uptick in minutes, but not enough to really make you a fantasy a pick in your daily fantasy league.
You want to pick up Larry Nance or
Larry Nance is definitely a possibility, and those two, it's really good you mentioned those because my theme this week is looking at guys who are productive but don't get a lot of time. Guys who get about less than 30 minutes a night but still can put up the numbers. For one thing, I looked at this week for guards. There's 3 guards that are getting less than 30 minutes a game but still are really producing. Zach LaVine, just coming back from an ACL injury. He's a little pricey on your daily fantasy budget, a little over $7,400, but 37 fantasy points over his last 3 games, which is a big deal for fantasy players. Guy Spencer Dinwiddie of the Nets, he's another guy. He's a little bit less than LaVine.
He's underrated.
He's one of the big surprises in the NBA this year as a player. The Nets have 3 home games coming up, and he's been rock solid at home, 17-7 over his last 3 home games. Here's another guy to consider. Former Dookie, Rodney Hood.
I like Rodney Hood.
He's just coming back from an injury. He's relatively cheap, just $5,000.
People have forgotten about him because he plays in Utah.
And he's starting to play better, and the Jazz are starting to play really well these days.
They're great. They're a very underrated team.
They're just starting to get into gear. He's, like I said, relatively cheap, about $5,000. But he had a 30-point night the other night against the Pelicans. It was almost perfect from the field. Real quick on the forward spot for the undervalued or not performing list, Julius Randle. Another guy the Lakers are trying to get rid of. He's got a unique stat. He's the only player in the NBA averaging less than 24 minutes a game, yet produces 13 and 6 every night.
Wow.
That's getting a lot of value for not a lot of time.
That's bang for your buck.
Yes. Zach Randolph, another guy. He's on fire these days, the veteran. And Bobby Portis for the Bulls, only $5,800 on your budget. But last 6 games, he's averaging a double-double. So he's another guy to consider if you're looking for value.
Randolph, the only guy to average 15 or 18 and 10 and can't jump over a credit card in the history of the NBA.
Reg, he gives you, as Mike points out, he gives you bang for the buck. That reminds me of Mickey's Big Mouth.
It's old school basketball.
Yes, it is.
He knows how to play
That's
the game.
grown man ball, baby.
He's no Maurice Lucas, believe me.
He uses every ounce of his body to get up there and make plays.
All right, John, what's his name? The not Giannis, who dunked on that guy the other night. But he did.
The unicorn.
He did
dunked on Hardaway.
Kristaps Porzingis is out for the year and maybe most of next year, Mike.
Yeah.
That's all. That's bad for your New York Knicks.
It's very bad. He was the only person. He's literally somebody you pay to watch play. There's very few of those guys left. He was a matchup nightmare. He just got to his first All-Star game. He was really becoming the star of the team the way the Knicks envisioned him when they got rid of Carmelo Anthony, put it all in his hands, and now he's out for. And then they went and traded his buddy down here to the Hornets. That was Hernan Gomez was his buddy. So it's a big things going on in Knick land there. But it's a real disappointment, not only for the Knicks and their fans, but for the league in general. He was quite a sight to see, I think.
Well, you see that dunk that the Greek Johnson put down? That reminded me of Vince Carter in the Olympics in 2000. He didn't care if a guy was standing there. He was just going to dunk anyway.
It's another Knick.
Yeah, he's starting to become.
Did you do that in college, Buck?
Frederick?
League?
Yeah, we did. I did. I could dunk in high school when I was in 8th grade. So yeah, that was. I could go two hands.
You were tooling around the intramural leagues at UCLA
before the knees got bad.
All right, well,
I used to punch that thing too, baby. Let's go.
We're not finished. We've got more talking about sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill coming right back.
And the food is coming, baby.
It's right here.
Make sure it's ours.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer,
and
Charles
food.
Arbuckle,
We
Buck's
got some
here.
food.
So
Yeah.
Dilworth Grill.
Yeah.
Them steak nachos.
All right.
That pretzel go
Pretzel,
down there. Big
with
can.
the
That
Bucky
pretzel.
Badger beer cheese. I call them the William Wilson wings because he's here and it has the WW. We can call them the Reggie Walker wings.
Thank you
We've got
very
steak
much.
nachos. Before we get out of here, let's have
Thank
some
you.
Thanks,
quick
bro.
final
Appreciate
thoughts. Buck, not so good. You're a former UCLA Bruin and Indianapolis Colt.
Yeah.
What's going on with the Colts?
Well, I'll say this.
Other than bad ownership.
Well, I mean, no, the thing is they have a really good GM. I think Ballard is
He's really
good. But I think when you look at Josh McDaniels, he may have hurt himself from a standpoint of agreeing to take that job and then backing out. So I don't know if it's so much the Colts on this one. I think, and then you get that New England Patriot rivalry with the Colts involved. It's going to be interesting how this plays out and who they end up with. But I think they'll do a nice job.
You
of
mentioned
getting
Frank Reich. I think he'd be a great
He'd
choice.
be a great candidate for
Former
it.
Carolina
I think
Panther.
There's a lot of good names that I think they can go to and pick. I think the way it'll shape up.
Is anybody called Bruce Arians? He's not doing anything these days.
No.
You know, but here's the thing with Bruce. He understands the Colts. He's been there. It could happen, but I don't think it'll be in this one.
I'm going to go college football. R.J. Emmons, a running back, formerly at Alabama, spent last year at Hutchinson Community College, is on his way down to where? Boca Raton, Florida, to reunite with Lane Kiffin. Listen, I told people before last season Kiffin would find a way to win down there. They won 11 games last year, including a bowl game. I expect much of the same this year. Kiffin, again, to me, one of the top 5 play callers in all of football at any level. And I
He
think
rubs a lot of people the wrong way, but he is a good football coach.
He's not rubbing anybody the wrong way. Kiffin's been the same guy the entire time. He's a smug guy that talks a lot of trash because he knows he's a good football coach. What's wrong with that?
All right.
And he's proving it, and he's winning down there. So I got no issue with what Kiffin's doing. I love the way he's building down there.
All right, Mountaineer Mike, what do you got?
My final thought is 3 cheers for St. John's. Their basketball program's struggling mightily for most of the season.
Luke Arnaseca's not coming back.
No, he's not. But he was in the house there
He
to
wasn't
watch.
wearing the sweater though.
No, watching St. John's upset Duke, and Wednesday night they went on the road and beat the number 1 team in the country, the first team in the history of the AP poll to start a conference season 0-10 or worse, and then beat the number 1 team on the road.
Your buddy Chris Mullen.
The food getting better, baby.
It's getting better there. It's getting better in Jamaica, Queens.
Well, my man James, come over here.
Yeah, come on over here. You got to explain
James,
what all this is.
James,
Put it on the
we
table.
got
Before I eat it all.
Hold on,
Yeah, 'cause I'm about
to get it out of here.
That's real.
James King from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. We got my favorite Wisconsin Bucky Badger beer cheese, your specialty. What do we have here? And with Duke, North Carolina tonight, is there something big, like there is something big every night here?
Well, Duke Carolina is our biggest day of the year. We're filling every space in the room. We got projectors. We got 4 different projectors. Beer bucket specials. We actually have a barbecue coleslaw pita made with North Carolina barbecue sauce as a special. The wings are fantastic. Crab cakes
Yes, they are.
great for the girls. Guys, I crush them, so it's not just the ladies, but they tend to sell well. This is really the place to be for a North Carolina Duke game. It's going to be really busy. Come early, get your buckets of beer, watch a great game. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope to see you here.
Hey,
Thanks, man.
We got the VC Rams fans come up here on special occasion. Even UFC fights. You got it all here.
Yeah. I mean, UFC, if it's pay-per-view, call. Let us know the interest level. That's always really important. But, yeah, absolutely. We're showing the games, the fights. Come down and see us.
All right, thanks, James. And Thanks for all this great. Yeah, what do you like, Duke or North Carolina?
I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going with UNC. I got it.
A lot of people, they're at home, so I unless Tyler Hansbrough's playing, I'm going with Duke. So, and he's not, so I'm going with
How
the.
many times you gonna say that?
Because he's my butt. Tyler Hansbrough's my guy. That's why.
I know.
All right.
I know.
That's going to do it for this edition of Talking About Sports for Kevin Tolbert, James King, William Wilson over here. We got Buck, Charles Harbuckle, Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer. I'm Kevin Casey from the
good.
Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. This has been Talking About Sports.
Call me.
So long for now.
Come on down.
Bang, bang, lunch game early.
Absolutely awesome.